I'm saying from the time I was born until 1944, 45, round about that period of time when I'm beginning to grow up a little bit, that I didn't know what a home was, I didn't know what a family was, and the word love wasn't in my bleeding dictionary. I didn't even know what the word meant. I could spell it, but I didn't know what it meant. I had none of it.
John Buroff, 38, petty criminal, wanted more than anything to go straight, and for 5 years he made it. He succeeded in giving up a life of crime after 17 prison sentences in 20 years, and for the first time he led what prison authorities call a good and useful life outside. During this spell of freedom, he met and married a woman who'd never had a wrong word with the police. They started a family, and he found the kind of security and love he'd never known before. Then he was back in prison again.
You take the first goal off in front there, that's it. There's another one there, you take that one there. You take the next one. Right, well you can see how the cell's laid out. It's a new place, it's clean, we expect you to keep it clean.
When did John Buroff's life of crime really start? What led him into trouble in the first place? What chances he got of making a go of life outside prison? This is the story of just one of the 40,000 men behind bars. His version of how his life went wrong, almost from the day he was born.
But don't you have any recollection of the warmth that the child can feel in going home?
Wolf. What bleeding warmth?
Of going home to her mother, his mother?
No. How the hell can I? I don't know who my mother is to start with. All I know is that I'm going into a house that I've been there a few weeks. This is my house. This is where I live. This is where I get fed, such as it is. And then the next day, I don't know where the bleeding hell I am. I'm at a new school, I've got to make new friends. And then a few weeks later, it all starts all over again. How the bleeding hell am I supposed to know what love is?
But when did this start? How young were you when you were first...
I've just told you from the word go. I was 6 weeks old, according to my mother, when my old man slung me in the fireplace because she was feeding me at the breast, and he got the needle because his bleeding grub wasn't on the table. And from that day, it starts. Grandad says, oh no, you can't have John. Etty's just lost a baby, let Etty have him.
Who was Etty?
Etty's one of the sisters, me aunt. What does me mother do? All right, she lets me go. Well, what sort of bleeding mother's that? That's no mother.
Well, how many homes did you have up to the time you were 10 years old?
I can't count them. I just can't count them.
Well, try.
Well, there's Hetty, one of the sisters. There's me mother. There's Dolly, another one of the sisters. There's me grandmother. There's 4 to start with. Now, how many times I've been knocked about between, or bounced about between those 4 people, God above knows.
But how long did you stay with any one of your mother's sisters or your grandmother?
Each one must work out a less than 2 or 3 months at a bleeding time, because the first really vivid memory I've got is over at Islington. On one Saturday, one market day, all us kids used to go in there every market day. I think it used to be open 2 or 3 times a week. We used to go in there to see what we could nick. I mean, we're all hungry, we're all skint. And one day, my Uncle Reg, who's in the furniture removal business, or was, happens to turn up at Islington Market, right out of the blue. And I recognised him, he recognised me, and I stayed with my Uncle Reg all day. Now, when I got home after the market shut, I got home late. I say home, back to where I was living. When I got home, my foster father or stepfather or whoever has asked me where I've been, so I said I've been with me Uncle Reg in the market. Don't tell lies. I said I'm not telling lies. You're telling me lies. So he shoved the old coal shovel. You remember the wide coal shovels, don't you? Shoved that in the fire, got it nice and warm, whipped my pants down, and I use the term loosely, and wallop. I've had a striped arse with a red hot coal shovel, and I am slung in a tin bleeding trunk for the night. Remember the old tin trunks with a curved top, 4'6" long, reasonably deep? I'm banged in one of them. Now what sort of thing is that to do to a kid, 6 or 7 year old, if I'm as old as they? Another day I've gone in the market. I'm piss-balling about. I come in late. So what happens? I'm straight in the coal cellar for the night. No grub, no nothing. No blanket to cover me. I'm in that coal cellar. I don't treat a bleeding dog like that, let alone a human baby.
When you were 10 years old, you were sent to Red Hill School for maladjusted children. What kind of a child do you think you were for them to have to deal with?
I should imagine that I was a pretty difficult one because I'd been to so many different homes. At the death I'd finished up with a stammer from Poulter's. I couldn't speak a word without a stammer, for a start. To a point I was retiring. I wanted to be on my own. I didn't want to know anybody else. But at the same time, I wanted to make friends but didn't know how to. I was always frightened that if I was to say anything, I'd get a clump alongside the ear hole for speaking out of turn. Then it suddenly, well not suddenly, but it gradually came upon me that I could do what I liked, that I could say what I liked. If I wanted to have a smoke, I could have a smoke, even at that age.
What good did the place do for you?
It cured me of my stammer, or the biggest part of my stammer. It gave me roots. It showed me another side of life that I'd never seen before. It showed me a nicer side of life, an easier side of life. It showed me that I was human, that I was a child, that I wasn't an animal to be kicked about. This was something that I'd never had in my life before that. I've got one person to think of that I know for a fact has gone out of his way to help me. He's not only helped me, but he's helped others as well. He's done more for me than my own bloody family did.
Who is that?
Sure, the headmaster.
I remember him as a very frightened, timid, indeed terrified child. And as you know from your knowledge of him, the way he's been speaking to him, he had every reason to be terrified and frightened. No security, no permanence. And as for the extraordinary multiplicity of parents and parent figures he managed to collect in his infancy, well, there, of course, you see the real essence of his tragedy.
What did you feel when you first saw him? Did you feel that you could do very much for him? Or was it too late at the age of 10?
Even if you think it to be too late, you should pretend it is still early enough. Because these people suffer. And if one can stop their suffering, one has achieved something. And after all, if one, at a certain stage of a boy's life, says it's too late to do anything, my goodness, what would happen if he heard one say a thing like that? So despite one's feelings, despite any pessimism one might generate in oneself, one has to go on as if everything is possible.
But you didn't succeed with him. He must have been one of your failures.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Well, what did you hope to do for him?
We hoped that he would generate a feeling in other people's good faith and reliability, a sort of, I suppose, a feeling of good faith in our reliability that enabled him to make a telephone call many, many years later. But in individual situations, we did not succeed in giving him that security.
Well, what went wrong? Because a lot of boys who went to Red Hill later became professional men. They became doctors, politicians, lawyers. What went wrong as far as John Burhoff was concerned?
Well, of course, there are many people like him who are stamped to do a deed of shame. Not that one used that in any remark in any pejorative sense, but because the steel and anger has entered so deep into their feelings, the shocks that he had experienced were so intense, I fear, as events showed, we could not exorcise those dreadful things.
Not in 6 years that you had him.
Apparently not.
How would you describe his childhood?
You can only use words that by their repetition have lost the mint appearance of new coins. Tragic, shocking, immoral, neglectful. Now, a child can absorb some of these influences. Some children have to. But at a certain point, that absorption, call it that, cannot be continued past a point of toleration. And at that situation, the child collapses, the feelings break. You know, the well-known expression, heartbroken feelings, and of course, that is very, very true. And then, of course, there is no return.
I didn't really want to go home before I went into the Navy. I wanted to go from school straight into the Navy. I'd signed on to go from Red Hill School. I'd given my address as Red Hill School. Not as 9 Haddon Way, Greenford, Middlesex. I didn't know my mother, and I certainly didn't know the geezer that came down for me, because I hadn't seen him for so long, my Uncle Charlie. There's little John sat in the main hall, and a big geezer walks in with glasses on. Are you little John? Who the bleeding hell are you? I'm your Uncle Charlie. Right, now Charlie comes down, I don't know him. The first place he takes me to is Gillingham. I see my grandmother. From there we go over to Greenford, where Mother's living at the time. We get there about 9:30 at night, and what meets me? A bleeding great house full of people that I've never seen before. They're all family. They're all smarming over me. Oh, what a lovely boy. Well, if I'm such a lovely boy, why the bleeding hell can't they come down there to see me? And why, if I'm such a lovely boy, and I've grown into such a lovely boy, why the bleeding hell can't my mother come down for me?
But how many visits from their family had you had in the
2.
In the 6 years?
2. Once when my mother bought me a pair of long trousers in Maidstone with my grandmother, and once when I came home.
How long were you at home with your mother then?
About 3 days, and I went straight into the Navy. I got home at 9:30 on the 11th, and I joined the Navy 8:30 on the 15th.
What was life like in the Navy for you? Did that
Well,
work out right?
Yeah, I loved it, but I got a medical discharge through stammer and blackouts.
But what do you feel brought on the stammering?
I don't know, just nerves. Basically, in those days, if I thought or knew that anybody was superior to me, well, I just used to feel belittled, I suppose, I don't know. But I just couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't talk to a stranger without I stammered.
And you were discharged for this reason?
And I was discharged for that reason, medically unfit. Day I came out of the Navy, when I got a medical discharge from the Navy in 1949. I'd no sooner put my kit bag down on the top stair, because we used to live in a little self-contained flat down Willesden High Road. I'd no sooner put my kit bag down on the top step when my old woman started. You're going out Monday, you're going to find a job, otherwise you're going in a home. You're going to go to work, you're going to bring your pay packet home every Friday unopened, otherwise you're going to go in a home. You're going to be in this house at 10 o'clock every night, otherwise you're going to go in a home. And in those days I was frightened to death of my old woman, and I do mean frightened.
But you were a young man then?
I was a youngster, yeah, I was 17, pushing 18 years old. But I was still frightened of my mother, mate.
But what about when you were very young at home?
What home? What bleeding home?
When you were at home with your mother?
When? I was hardly ever at home with my mother. Work it out. From 1943 to 1949, I saw my mother twice. Once for a week down at Ramsgate, and once for a so-called weekend. When I came home on the Friday evening, on the Saturday morning, Mum says to me, come down and say good morning to Uncle Terry. I knew I had no bleeding Uncle Terry.
Where do you feel your troubles really started? When did your prison sentences start?
Oh, well, they started in 1951. But basically it's been my own fault. I was too bleeding idle to go to work. I was too lazy. I didn't see why I should have to punch a clock at 8 o'clock every morning and punch it again at 6 o'clock at night. So I went the easy way about it. Somebody came up to me one day in a little cafe that we used to use in Willesden, you know, the Yobbos. Asked me if ever I'd done any thieving. I said no. He said, well, I'm going out for some lead. Do you want to come? So I went out with him. Lead. And we stripped an old swimming bath up at Willesden of lead. And when I saw the amount of money that I got the following day, I thought, well, what's the bleeding good of working? Sod that. So I didn't work. That's it in a nutshell. I thought, why the hell should I work? If I can pick up £30, £40 for a little bit of lead, I ain't going to bleed and work for £7 or £8 a week. So I didn't go to work. It's as easy as that.
Altogether, how many prisons have you been in?
I don't know, I found. Bedford Prison, Gloucester, Wandsworth, Scrubs, Leeds 2 or 3 times, Hull twice, Lincoln twice, Shrewsbury once, Wakefield, Portsmouth, Coldingley, and if you want to count Borstal Gainsall as well.
How many is that altogether?
What's that? That's
How many convictions?
13 nicks, isn't it? Well, that was 17 convictions that I've actually done prison, and it was, I should think I'm just about coming up to about 64 then. And I thought, well, if this is going to be your life, mate, you better wrap it in. And I had a word with a screw there called Shakespeare, Ron Shakespeare, cook and baker. I had a word with him about trying to get me a cook and baker's ticket. He got me a cook and baker's ticket. I sat the examination while I was in Hull. I sat it on the Thursday and the Friday. I got the ticket on the Saturday. I came out on the Monday, went to sea on the Wednesday, and that was me lot. I wrapped it in. I don't feel as if everybody's been against me. I've just been there. I've just been another mouth to feed, somehow or other. I've just been another person that's got to be clothed somehow or other. But there's been no bleeding love in my life, mate. Not until I met my missus.
How did you and John meet?
Well, at the time I was a widow. I'd been a widow for 3.5 years, and a friend of mine, she also was a widow, and we used to look at the personal columns in the Weekly Advertiser. And we just used to say, you know, we'd like to meet somebody and make our lives interesting, you know. And we decided to put an advert in, more for a laugh than anything, you know. And I was most surprised when I received 57 replies. I picked out 3 to answer, to be precise. And a couple of days after the flood of letters, I got one single one from John. And I just liked the sound of it, you know. It was a lively letter and full of fun and yet nice with it, you know. And I decided to answer it, you know, and I didn't bother about the other people.
I think more than anything else, you know, it was done as a giggle. The life I was leading at that time, I was so bleeding pissed off with it, round off with it, you know. I thought, all right, well, in for a penny, in for a pound. So I wrote. I thought, well, we'll see what happens anyway, you know. But it snowballed on me, didn't it? I wound up bleeding married with a family, you know.
What did he say in his letter?
Well, would you like me to read it? It says, Dear ? Please do not think that this letter is written by an idiot out for kicks. I am genuine and hope you will treat my plea in a serious manner, because that is what this letter will virtually be, a plea. I do not seek pity or charity, just ordinary human understanding, and, God willing, companionship with ultimate marriage. To start with, then, you will want some basic facts about me. I'm 34 years of age, single and fed up with my present way of life. I stand about 6 feet tall. I do not consider myself handsome nor ugly. I am definitely short of hair. Not entirely bald, mind you, but another 2 or 3 years and flies will be using my head as a skating rink. I have 2 main ambitions in life. The first, to have a wife and family, as I am extremely fond of children. The second, to open my own restaurant, and with luck, one day I shall have both. By nature, I am easygoing. I like to have a drink now and again, but I'm not a hearty drinker by any means. I like to go to a show in town now and then, but I also enjoy home life. I'm quite happy to sit indoors watching TV, etc. I consider myself to be pretty useful around the house regarding painting and decorating, etc. But one thing I do really hate is gardening. I fully realise the responsibilities I should be taking on if by some chance, after getting to know each other, we decided to make a go of it together. And quite frankly, I would welcome the opportunity. Just one more thing, however. Should you feel inclined not to pursue this matter, let me wish you the very best of luck in your search for happiness. So until I hear from you, which I hope will be soon, I remain yours very sincerely, John. He says, you know, about his name, if his name's foreign, but he's a white person, you know.
And you met him shortly after that?
Yes, I met him.
How did he measure up to?
Well, I don't know, he just seemed to sort of fit the letter somehow, you know. He seemed quite shy at first, quietly shy, you know, but full of chat, you know, and very frank kind of chat that, you know, you normally take a little while to get around to. Perhaps it was because of the way we were meeting, you know, but we went for a drink. My family kept coming in and interrupting, you know, so we decided to go for a drink. And we sat there and talked and said what we were both looking for, you know. And by this time, the joke had gone, you know, or the feeling that it was all going to be a joke, you know. I think both of us felt that, you know, this was it, you know. And we came out of this little pub. We only had the one drink. And we walked along holding hands as if we were 16-year-olds. And we've never looked back. And, 12 weeks after that, we were married.
But you didn't tell her that you'd been in prison.
No. I think really, I was a little bit ashamed of it, you know. I mean, it's nothing to be proud of, is it? Being in the nick. I mean, there's nothing big about it, nothing clever about it.
I had a feeling, premonition or something, that he'd been in, you know, in prison. I don't know why. I couldn't put a finger on why.
Well, when did you find out?
Well, I took him to see an aunt of mine, and she's a medium, you know. She likes to read the teacups, and we went really to invite her to the wedding, you know. And we persuaded John to have his cup read, and she sort of picked up his past and everything just like that, you know.
Said that she could see me going round in a circle with lots of other men who were all dressed in blue. Well, at that time, prison uniform was blue. That was a blue battle dress and blue trousers. She could see me in a big place with lots of rooms, all looking exactly alike. She could hear keys clanking. I thought, cool, Christ, what else do you know? Anyway, cut a long story short, when we got out, I said to Doc, well, I guess that's it then. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, May's told you now where I've been, what I am. I said, I've been in Nick for about 16, 17 years, off and on. Do we go ahead? She said, well, look, what you've done makes no difference to me. It's what you do now and what you do in the future. So we just went ahead with it. And nobody was more surprised than me and my mother.
But in fact, 3 years after you were married,
yes,
he did get in trouble.
Yes.
And as I understand it, it all started with the police coming to your door.
Yes.
To find him, and he was never about.
That's true, yes.
You had to face the police.
Yes,
then.
I did. Yes, and it wasn't very nice. It was very nerve-wracking, you know. I'd never had any experience like with the police. My family are just ordinary people, you know, and never didn't really know what to expect even, you know.
But you had to put the police off?
Yes, but I only actually lied once. I was pretty lucky, really. You know, each time I said he's not here, he wasn't here. He was off down the gardens as far as I was concerned.
I used to sit there and smoke a cigarette. Mr. Borofin, no. Oh, all right, and away they used to go. And I'm sat in my back garden amongst 2 rows of sprouts, smoking a cigarette.
But all the time you knew that if you were caught...
I was going to do some porridge.
It was going to be prison again.
Yeah, but not 21 months for it.
In fact, after that he was tried, and he was
Yes.
convicted,
Yes.
and sentenced to 21 months
Yes,
in Wandsworth.
eventually, yes. He went to Wandsworth. The actual crime was driving while disqualified. I know it isn't right, I'm not saying it is, but driving while disqualified and obtaining insurance under a false statement, you know. But he, in his own mind, it was the last straw to keep us together as a family, you know. We were going through a rough patch, we had debts, you know. And John was very unsteady in his work. He's got a very high temper and it loses him jobs, you know. And he saw a way of making an honest living, which was what he wanted. I mean, he'd been straight for 5 years. And with his record, it would would have been easy for him to go and steal a few pounds. But the thing in his favour, he didn't. He tried to earn the money. And they sentenced him to 21 months for that, trying to keep us together, you know, provide for us. In my opinion, they'd have done far better to have tried to understand the situation and granted him a licence. But then who am I to say, you know?
John Burroff was back behind bars again for the 18th time. This time it was Wandsworth Prison, where we on Man Alive first met him and talked to him about conditions in the overcrowded, top-security prison, where men are sometimes herded together, 3 to a cell. Prison was nothing new to John Burroff, but this was one of Britain's toughest and little changed since it was built 100 years ago.
How do you feel that you're being treated in prison? Can you put it in a nutshell?
Yeah, one word, animals. Literally.
Animals?
Yeah, of course you are. Put it this way, look. Would you lock up a dog 22 and a half hours a day? Because I bloody wouldn't. So if you wouldn't lock an animal up for 22 and a half hours a day, why lock a human being up?
But when are you locked up for 22 and a half hours a day?
Weekends, Saturday and Sunday. It's as easy as that. Every Saturday and every Sunday you're in this peak for about 22 and a half hours.
Some people might say that you're getting what you deserve.
I've only got one thing to say to those people. That's a right load of cobblers. Now, I'm told by psychiatrists, bed shrinkers and all the rest of it, that I'm here to be helped. But basically, there's something wrong with me. Although, personally, I disagree with it. I know what's right, what's wrong. But we're told that we are here to be helped. Yet, the boys in blue don't agree. We're here to be punished, and we are punished. Make no bloody mistake about it.
But how do you mean that you're punished, apart from the fact that you've lost your freedom?
Well, you've got the thought of your family outside, knowing what they've got to go through. Once we're in here, our troubles are over, virtually. Coming back to this thing about being punished, you've got a jacket. On the jacket is 3 buttons. What difference does it make whether you've got 1 button done up, 2 buttons done up, or all 3 done up? As long as your jacket's done up, you're clean and reasonably tidy, what difference does it make? Yet if I walk down this landing with my jacket on, with 1 button undone, somebody will yell out, "Get that button done up." If I make a move to do it up and leave it undone, a little bit further down another landing, somebody else will shout. Now, if this goes on for 1 or 2 days, I shall be nicked. for disobeying an order. If I'm walking around with me tie undone, the same thing can happen. Now, how bloody trivial can you get? You're not men. You're not even boys. I've got a boy at home that I wouldn't treat like that. So why the bloody hell should I be treated like it in here?
What was your reaction when you found he got 21 months?
It's just difficult really to put into words. You know, you just feel absolutely empty and lost. Just that. You just, you know, you're on your own, you just don't know what to think. You know, I don't think you're even thinking, to be truthful, you know, just... I think shock, you know, at having such a steep sentence as well had something to do with the feeling, you know.
When your husband was sentenced and you were in the court, what was the worst part about it for you?
I don't know exactly. A bad part was when his past record was read out.
This was all new to you?
Yeah, well, it was new. I knew about his record. I didn't know details, of course, but I felt then, well, that's it, you know. What chance does he stand with all those convictions, you know? The fact that he'd gone straight for the 5 years didn't seem to matter while I was sitting in there, you know? They didn't seem to be taking that into account. And, I just began to sort of feel, I suppose, kind of despair. I thought, well, that's it, it'll go away, you know? But as I say, I didn't really expect it to be for quite so long. Not for a driving offence, anyway. And it wasn't as if he was really doing crooked work, you know. He was doing genuine haulage work, you know. Just trying to earn a living.
Can you remember what it was like for you going to Wandsworth prison for the first time? Had you ever seen a prison?
No, never. No. And I went in and in the waiting room and I couldn't keep a limb still. I was shaking from it, literally shaking. You could see it, you know. And when I got into the actual, visiting room, the fact that you couldn't touch each other, you know, you couldn't hold hands or kiss each other, it just upset me, you know. I could have sat and held my eyes out, you know. And I think John was really feeling exactly the same, you know. It was a terrible experience.
The way I always look at it is, if she was in it, would I have waited for her? I think if it was offered to me, I'd have it. And this is the one fear that was in my mind about Dot. Because you see or you hear, rather, of so many blokes in it getting a Dear John. Dear John, sorry to tell you, but I've met another geezer, that's it. Ta-ta, kaput, finished, finito. You hear so much of it, you see so much of it, you see what it can do to a man in there, but you're expecting it yourself all the time.
Come on in, how'd you get?
Now, this was the first time you'd been in prison as a married man.
Yeah.
You'd been in 17 times before that.
Something like that, yeah. Well, this is what I just said. I didn't get married before because I didn't think it fair to expect any woman to wait for me.
How different was it being in prison as a married man?
A bleeding sight harder. It was... I don't know, it's hard to describe. It's, you know your wife's out there, you know you can trust her, but at the same time you also know that at the right time and at the right place, another geezer can have it away with her. Your wife writes and tells you that she's going to a party, so what do you think? That's it. Or is this going to be it? It's a nasty feeling.
How much did this fear of losing occupy your mind when you were in prison?
Well, for me, I think it took up about 80% of my time, wondering about it, because the work you do in there is so stupid anyway that a baby can do it. You can do it with your eyes shut. So whilst you're doing your work, your mind's active. It's wondering, thinking. You're at it all the time, or at least I am. I'd done that 21-month sentence, and it felt to me as if it was 21 bleeding years, not months.
Right, stop work, stop talking. You wait, leaders. Be done, single file.
It's probably really a question of just what you want out of life.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what do you want?
Well, I want my kids to be proud of me. That's the main thing, even though 2 of them aren't mine. I want my baby to have what I've never had. That's a home with a mother and father behind her. I want my kids to be able to turn around and say to their friends or what have you, that's my dad. He'll do anything for me, and I would. But if I thought any one of my kids were going to finish up in these places, I'd kill them at birth.
Well, just what will you do when you go out of here?
Well, the first thing I've got to do is find a job. With any luck, I can get back into carpets. If I can't get back into carpet, all right, well then I've got to find something else.
But what kind of a job will it have to be for you to make you feel it was worthwhile to go straight?
Any job where I can take home a reasonable wage to my wife at the end of the week, and also know at the same time that at the end of a week's work, when I've paid my missus, I've also got a few bob in my pocket. Because I don't see any percentage in going out to work for £18 a week, slogging my guts out, tipping up £18 a week to my missus, and then having to scratch from her for the rest of the week for my bus fares. And I've done it, but I won't do it again.
You'd rather thieve than that?
I'll go thieving first. And I haven't been thieving for 5 years. I always said that once I got married, that was it, finished. I said it in 1964, screwing, I don't want to know. But I was single. But rather than see my kids go hungry, or without shoes to their feet, I'll go out screwing.
John Burov finished his sentence 4 months ago. He went straight back to his wife and family, but things aren't exactly working out right there, and he's already been in trouble with the police. But at least he got his old job back, sewing carpets, and he still says he's determined to go straight and try and earn an honest living.
Well, what about this job you've got now? Can I ask how much you're earning here?
Yeah, I get about 10 shillings an hour. That works out at about 21.25 a week. By the time stoppages are taken out, I take home about 19 a week.
Well, when you were in Wandsworth, you said to me on one occasion that if going straight meant earning just £18 a week,
no,
you'd return to thieving.
No. I said I would not go to work for less than £18 a week.
Well, you're not getting very much more.
I'm not getting very much more now. I save a little bit on fares, which is just as well. But even this won't last. Because I can't manage on it. It's impossible.
So what do you intend to do?
I'll have to find something else. What's the good of my cycling 22 mile a bleeding day, which I'm doing now, 11 mile up, 11 mile back, start at 8, finish at 5:30, 5 days a week, 42.5 hours, taking home £19 a week when I can sit on my arse at home and pick up £16.75 from Social Security. So something else has got to be done. I'll have to find something else.
When you say you'll have to find something else, do you mean an honest job or do you mean going back to thieving?
If you want to know whether I'm going to go bent or not, no, mate, I ain't. I don't want to know. I've had a gutful. I told you this in Wandsworth. I told you in Wandsworth that I'd knocked off screwing in 1964. I haven't been thieving ever since. I don't intend to go thieving ever since. Again. I've had a gutful of it. And I've had a gutful of Nick. It's as simple as that.
But it could be said that everything is going for you, John. You've got a home to come to, you've got a wife who's stood by you, and you have children as well. All you have to do is to stick to the job you get. What's stopping you doing this?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. There's something inside of me that will not let me settle at the moment. I'm slowly beginning to turn round, and it is slow, but I'm gradually getting there.
Well, what
And
about...
it's only through her.
Well, what about Dot? What about your marriage? How is that working out now that you're out of prison?
Well, now that I've got a lot of the tension and I suppose hate out of me system, I say hate for the screws, but now that that is beginning to come out of me, I'm beginning to settle down, and my marriage is slowly beginning to mend again.
What do you say, Dot? Has it worked out since he came home?
No, I don't think it has.
Has there been any trouble between you?
Yes, he seems to, you know, pick on our son, you know, Stephen. And, of course, being a mother, I'm in the middle of the two of them. I love them both. But no mother will sit back and see a child picked on, especially when it's not warranted, you know. And things went on, you know, for a couple of weeks. And in the finish, we were bickering every day over this boy, you know. And came to a head a few weeks ago, one Sunday. John decided to go out and get drunk. And he left me in rather a depressed state. So I took a couple of antidepressant tablets. And I thought, well, if he's going to get drunk, I'll have a drink.
When I came back, the wife was acting drunk. I hit the roof and she's at every wall in the bedroom.
But what was that all about?
Nothing, literally nothing. This had been going on for about a fortnight. Bicker, argue, and this particular Sunday she was cooking a dinner. Well, she'd cooked it after a fashion, but she couldn't serve it up. She was blind. Yes, you were.
What do you mean blind?
Well, blood so she didn't know where the hell she was. She kept saying, oh, I'm dizzy, John, I'm dizzy. And I want a drink. I said, you want a drink? I'll give you a drink, mate, didn't I? So I poured her out a large glass of port. And she was brazen with it. She knocked it back in one go. And after dinner, we're up in the bedroom and she's ranting and raving. She slapped me round the clock because I was going to take me baby. I wouldn't go without her. She said, you can take baby, but she goes somewhere decent. I said, is that your last word? She said, yeah. I said, that's good enough for me, mate. That's all I want. I've gone into the bedroom. I've got the case down. I've tried to find the baby's clothes. And wherever I went, she's screaming at me, they're not in there, they're not in there. Well, then she's come at me. She slapped me face. I said, right, mate, that's your lot. So I've clocked her. Next thing I know, I've got her down on the bed. I'm trying to take my tie off to get that round her neck. She's not having none of that, is she? So I've grabbed a sock. And I've got that halfway round her neck. Well, then I saw a little bit of blood on her teeth. And heard her screaming. So I phoned the law up, didn't I?
You did?
Yeah.
Why did you phone the law?
Well, basically, I wanted help. I wanted advice. Next thing I know, I'm bleeding Nick, don't I?
And then what happened in court?
I got 2-year probation. But
you...
what got up my hooter was the fact that I asked for help and advice. Next thing I know, I've had a medical, which I agreed to anyway. They thought I might be drunk, and then I'm nicked. I can't even get out on bail.
But how did this all start? What was the basis of it? What did you say?
Nothing.
He started saying he was leaving, he'd had enough, and he was taking the baby. Well, he's had this over me ever since we've had the baby, really, whenever he's been in a temper. And it's one thing that I cannot stand, because I would hate that baby to have the life that John's had.
She wouldn't.
And if she walked out of this house with him, that's the life she'd have, because he wouldn't be able to look after her. He'd have to work, wouldn't you?
Thanks very much.
No, you'd
I
have
love
to
you
work.
too.
How could you? You'd leave her with strangers?
I wasn't going to leave her with a stranger.
you'd
She was
have
going
to.
down to my old woman.
Well, in any case, and things just
To your
came
mother?
to a head.
Yeah.
But she wouldn't have her. She's told me this.
Isn't this where you said your trouble started?
Yes.
Yeah, I suppose it did really. But when you're in a temper, you don't think, do you?
No, well, his
You
mother
think of
said
the
she wouldn't
nearest,
have
you know?
him, wouldn't have her, and she wouldn't entertain John.
But from the way you talked about your mother, it would have seemed to me anyway that she would probably be, in your
She'd have slung
mind,
me out.
the last person you'd have gone to.
She'd have slung me out. As soon as I'd have got down there, she would have said, "What the hell do you want? Hello, goodbye, now get out of it." Because she's done it.
But this one incident led John to attempt to
this
strangle
attack.
you.
Yes, yes.
That isn't hardly enough for that.
Well, not really, but this is how John's been since he's been home. He's been, I think, a different man. He's not the same man at all.
In what way?
Well, he's so moody, so changeable.
I'm edgy.
You know, he's
I'm edgy, very, very edgy.
one
I'm on
minute
edge
we
all
could
the
be
time.
laughing and joking with the children or even on our own, and 2 minutes later he's just unbearable, you know, with himself and everybody else.
What do you put this down to?
I don't really know. It's something I just can't put my finger on. Everything seems to be on top of me. And where 2 years ago I could laugh at the problems that I had, basically financial. Where I could laugh at it, and if anybody knocked at the door and I couldn't pay them, I just used to turn around and say, "Get stuffed, mate." Now I don't know what the hell to do, or at least I didn't. Now I'm just beginning to sort myself out of it, and we're beginning to settle down a bit.
The only thing is he can't settle into a job, and this I think is one of the main reasons why he's so moody. You know, it upsets me. I worry, you know, and he feels that he can't be tied down to any one job.
But what is the future going to be like, do you think, for your wife and your children?
Well, not rosy, not by any means rosy. I've still got a lot of struggle ahead of me, yeah. But I think they're going to have a happy home, a good home, and this is what I want. This is what I want for them more than anything else in the world, obviously. The same as you want the same for your children.
But a lot of people would say, John, that you've got everything going for you
I have.
after your past history. You have a wife who loves you and who has stood by you. You have a home and you have a family.
Are you trying to tell me? Because you don't have to. I know it, mate. I know it. I know what I've got in front of me. And it's something I've never had in my life. And I'm not going to let it go. Choose what?
But you have it for a few weeks, and then there's trouble again with the very people who love you more than anybody else. What does that love mean to you?
Means everything. Literally. That's it in a nutshell. Without her, mate, I'm knackered. I can't do nothing. I'm fit for nothing.